All right, Shaggy. This is why you don't count out a champion. The Avalanche go into Seattle and win this thing 4-1. We got a game 7, folks. It's going to be Sunday in Colorado. We just don't know what time yet. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day, especially on the weekend. We typically don't do weekends, but it's the playoffs, big game. You're getting extra Locked On Avalanche. You're just going to have to deal with it. All right. But thank you for tuning in, like we said, and make sure to follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel over on YouTube. Subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. All right, man. Wow. Everything kind of going against the Avalanche, just clearly not playing their best hockey in this series. And when you're going to the other team's arena, who has all the momentum, you don't chalk it up to impossible, especially with this sport, especially with this team. But you figured it was going to be a challenge. And the Avalanche did something that they haven't had to do in a while, and that's have their backs up against the wall. And how would they come out fighting? You got your answer. This was a full 60, to use the term.
Yeah, they came out of the gate going 100 miles an hour. Like, the passes looked great. Right, like they were forechecking everything in that first, I would say, 6 minutes of the game. They were buzzing, and I think this comes on the heels of Bednar's comments about what he felt in game 5. And I really feel like the team kind of held themselves accountable for that loss, and they are getting back to business. And it really speaks volumes going into a game 7, which we'll talk about. But if this was another close game, like 4 of the 6 games we've played have been like 3-2. If this was another 3-2 game, you'd be kind of biting your nails like, oh, here comes a game 7. Can the Avalanche pull it out? But this was the Avalanche. We got to watch the Avalanche play their game in Seattle, and you felt good about how they did it. This game was never in question from a tempo standpoint and production standpoint, and you felt good about watching your team actually play again.
With the exception of game 3, which was the 6-4 win, your scores are 3-1, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 4-1. And it was almost 3-1 in this last game, but you had Lehkonen poke in that empty netter to make it 4. But basically, if you score 3 goals, you got a really good chance of winning a game in this series, right? But yeah, like how we've been saying all along, Seattle has been the one setting the tone in every single game. And for really the first time, I don't want to say the Avalanche really like set the tone, but they weren't allowing Seattle to be the one. It was more of that back and forth. The first shift of the game for the Avs, they won the faceoff and had a really good offensive possession. Really good. Obviously nothing came out of it, but that it didn't let Seattle just have that first possession. And then you're already thinking like, okay, here we go again.
Yeah.
Even though it's the only first position of the game, Seattle's already going back to what they've been doing. And you didn't get that. And you had some back and forth. And this, to me, really felt like the first playoff game, right?
Yeah.
Like this felt like a back and forth game. You would kind of lean it towards the Avalanche of kind of being the aggressors and kind of, if a team was in control, air quotes, like you would say it was the Avalanche, but it was, it was that back and forth style of game. It wasn't just one team, Seattle, dominating like they've been for most of this series.
And see, I had one of these moments watching the game, That's So Raven moment where I saw into the future.
Yes.
This game, and I don't want everybody to freak out and start throwing rocks at me. Here's the Doom part of Shaggy Von Doom. This game felt eerily similar to when the Avs had the opportunity to win the cup at home, and they didn't. And it had to go back to Tampa, and they did. I feel like the moment kind of got to Seattle. Like, you had that opportunity to knock out the defending Stanley Cup champions. Like, the arena, it was all they were talking about all day. You saw all these NHL stats. Seattle has the opportunity to. I feel like that was overhyped for that moment. And Colorado coming out there and hitting him in the mouth, immediately starting the game, and it wasn't the same old, same old. I feel like that was a perfect combination for the Avalanche win tonight.
Well, like we said on Thursday's episode, like all the pressure's on Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're going back home and you have the opportunity to knock out the defending champs. I'm sorry, it's going to weigh on a human being.
Yep.
You can't say that. And I'm not saying Seattle was saying it, that wasn't on their minds. If they were, that's the right thing to say, but it's going to be.
Yep.
Like, that is human nature. You're playing a sport that all these eyes are on you. You're at your home arena. Like, there was a lot of pressure on Seattle. I don't want to say it got to them, but I think it was more the way in watching that game. I think it was more the Avalanche saying, we're not ready for our season to be over.
Yeah.
We're going to come out and we are going to get back to playing how we know we can play. Doesn't matter. We're down all these guys. We've dealt with that all season. And you loved seeing that because you saw it in parts during this series, right? And little bits here and there, but for the duration of a game, this was easily their best game by far.
They were in command, and it made me smile hearing the commentary team talk about how good the Avalanche are doing on faceoffs. I was like, you guys haven't been around this whole season.
Well, it's so funny because they were like, well, Seattle's struggling on the faceoffs. They were the 31st team in the league. And I'm like, Colorado is like probably the 29th. Like, we're forgetting that aspect. And I don't care. Like, I'll take it. I will take it all day. And if the Avs can get up on that, what was the final percentage? I got it up.
It's 55 point. Yeah, I got 55.8 to 44.2.
Yeah, so they're rounding up and around. So 56 to 54%, but it seemed much bigger than that, right? The Avs are doing. But how crazy is this game, this sport, when you're going into Seattle really down, and if you read some of the comments of some of these Avalanche players after Game 5, they weren't thrown in the towel, but comments were like, yeah, we don't know what's going on right now. I think Nathan McKinnon even said, I don't know what else to do. And Jared Bednar was saying, like, it's so frustrating because I've seen these guys bat. Like, you're hearing like just this downtrodden team, and then you go in, you play like that. And from a fan perspective, right? They're going into this game and you're like, man, like, anything's possible. I just hope that they escape with this. And then they go out and play the way that they did. And now how are we feeling?
Yeah.
Now how are we feeling when they go home and play Game 7? We're feeling so much better going into Game 7 than we did for Game 6. Not saying this is a slam dunk. The Avs have struggled at home. Seattle's still a very good team. Clearly, they pushed you to the brink. So it's just the emotion that comes with watching this sport and following your team. It just goes up and down. It's crazy.
You want to make sure, because I've already seen this just from the little bit from game end to recording. I've already seen this groundswell of, we did it. We forced Game 7. Like, yes, but we haven't done it. There's still one more game. Like, you want to hold on to this emotion that the Avalanche had and carry it also into Game 7. Like, getting to Game 7 is not it. You want to get through Game 7 and go on to the next round. And you want the Avalanche to not just take a breath and be like, we're not done yet. No, keep pushing. Keep pushing.
What would you like if this Game 6 was it? Like, Seattle won this game in the fashion that they've been winning games, right? Would you rather lose that way, just get blown out of the arena, basically? That's a exaggeration, but clearly Seattle has been the better team in the majority of these games. Would you rather lose like that, or would you want one of those back and forth series where it's, any game is just up in the air and it's just a puck luck goal or something like that? Like those could be more difficult to swallow.
Yeah.
But when you're rooting for your team, it's like, man, we gave it our all. And if the Avs had lost that game 6, in the same style they've been losing these games to Seattle, I think you're going into the offseason like a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
And that could still happen. I mean, if you still lose game 7, like I think there's going to be quite, you don't want to go out in round 1. But this hasn't been that back and forth series. That's just every team is on their game. And at least for this game 6, it was the Avs in charge. So we'll see what happens in game 7 though. How does this carry over for the Avalanche?
And this game 7s are where rivalries are made. This is why we hate Minnesota as long as we have, because of game 7s. This is, we talked about earlier with the physicality and the play. If this is going to be a rivalry going forward, game 7 is going to be your indicator. I think whoever becomes the victor this offseason is going to be stewing and brewing over the victor. We're going to be seeing Seattle for years to come.
Yeah. And yeah, so that game 7 Sunday, should a certain member of the Seattle Kraken not be playing in that game? We will get to that, and then more on this game, obviously, as well as game 7 and our sound check, of course. Have to get to that. But first, we are going to hear from eBay Motors. And for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know if the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. Eligible items only, and exclusions apply. All right, so I want to start with the one issue that the Avalanche have been having for most of this series, and that is getting the first goal, right? It's been all Kraken for every game, and technically it is again for this game, but the Avs had it first, and a review of Bo Byram, beautiful snipe, got them on the board first, and that was exactly what I wanted. Exactly what I wanted, right? And then it was reviewed, and you're like, of course it's going to be reviewed. And I think in the end they got it right. If you look at the angles that they gave you during the game, there was only a couple, and there's not a ton of angles that they could have shown you because the play was right up against the boards, and it was Evan Rodriguez coming into the zone, kind of like dragging his back skate, which, you could tell the puck was on that skate, and you could, if you slow it down, you really can see that he's in the zone. I mean, it's millimeters, right? Yeah. But by the letter of the rule, it is offside. So I think they did get that one right, but it was just so disheartening to finally get that first goal and have it taken away. And then Seattle goes and gets one again.
That's never happened to the Avalanche in the playoffs, and offsides, and no.
What?
No.
What are we even talking about here? I don't remember one ever in the history of
never,
the franchise.
ever.
So that was a little bit frustrating, right? And then, and then Seattle gets that first goal, and even though again that was in the first, you still have all this time to go in the game, but you're like, not again. Yeah. Let's not let this thing get out of hand. At least don't give them 2 goals, right? So obviously they turned it around, and they once again, the Avalanche team does not just panic. Even down in a series, your season's on the line, you give up the first goal again, crowd going crazy, you settle down and you just play your game.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like that's the message that Jared Bednar always gives them, is just play your game.
Yeah, this initial, it's bad that we're getting accustomed to which one was our favorite first goal for Seattle, but this one wasn't demoralizing. Like this one, it didn't feel like you had a mountain to climb with the pace they were already dictating the game with. Like this just felt like, okay, whatever. I'm glad they get to celebrate. And they went right out and took care of business right out of the gate. So yeah, it was one of those that felt like it was easy to come back from.
You're right. You're right. Because they were skating with purpose. Like they were skating hard. They were skating like their season depended on it, because guess what? It did.
Yep.
And it showed. It showed. So you did, you know, like, man, they keep playing like this, then yeah, we definitely tie this up. All right. The big thing. All right, are we good? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. The big thing that is going to be watched Saturday. I know I'm going to be watching this like a hawk. A lot of people are. And if you follow us on Twitter, you will know that there was a lot of conversation going on about that Jordan Eberle hit on Andrew Cogliano. And dangerous. A lot of people call that the worst hit or penalty in the sport. And for a moment there, you're looking at Andrew Cogliano and like, I hope a stretcher is not coming out. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Because when you watch the replay, his head just goes into the boards and it's kind of contorted. And it's an ugly play and it's a nasty play. And if we're going to sit here and say Cale Makar deserved a suspension, you can't tell me that Jordan Eberle does not deserve a suspension. You can't sit here and tell me that you think what Cale Makar did was worse. I don't want to play games on who was injured worse, right? The injuries suck. You don't want anybody to get hurt. But you can't tell me like what Cale Makar did was worse than what Jordan Eberle did. If you want to say both are bad, then even if you say both are bad and you agree with what Makar got, you got to sit here and say like Jordan Eberle should not be playing in Game 7.
There is no possible way that Eberle is playing in Game 7 because
there's a way, man. Let me tell you.
That's one of the most egregious penalties. Like it's one of the most basic. Like you get the stick in your hand, you figure out how to skate, pizza, you know, with the skates and all that. But and then if you see somebody's numbers, you pull up, and you don't put them in the boards. And no matter how many times they slow that clip down, he saw every thread of Cogliano's number. He put him in the boards. He turtled into his shoulders, and like his spine went into his leg. But the thing is, it's Cogliano. He's half Wolverine, and he's right back on the bench.
Well, and that's where there's the way that he might not get suspended, because McCann is out on the hit from Makar, and that's obviously unfortunate for Seattle. And Cogliano got back out there and played. I'm not comparing those two guys. I'm not saying. I'm just saying in the realm of what Department of Player Safety is going to look at. It's like, oh well, he came back, so it's not that it wasn't that bad. And that like you sounded pretty confident that Jordan Eberle is not going to be playing Game 7. I am nowhere near that level of confidence, Kyle. It's nowhere near it. Just because they've shown us anything, it's inconsistency. And if you're going to play, you know, like we said the other day, if the line in the sand is the injury, there's no injury.
Yeah.
So and we said the other day, they acted swiftly. And I know you have to because it's the playoffs, but they acted swiftly. Like we woke up in the morning the next day and we were hearing that Cale Makar is having a hearing. I'm not expecting that, just because I expect nothing from Department of Player Safety. Should there be? Absolutely 100%. Will there be? I don't know. Hands up. I don't know, because we don't know how these guys operate. And I genuinely think because Cogliano came back in that game, he's going to get nothing and learn nothing.
I was glad that TNT did say, well, this is one of the things you don't do, and that's a bad hit. And they kept talking about how bad it was. And I was like, maybe this Bettman's freaking out that his beloved league is being talked negatively about. So we'll see.
I was just loving all the people tagging Department of Player Safety on Twitter. So they know about it because Avs Nation went out in full force and tagged them over and over and over again. But that's not why they know about it, whatever. But you never know. Maybe they don't even pay attention, and that's how they
I think
decide
they
these
still.
things.
I think they have a MySpace. I think that's their social media.
What was the other one that was around for a while? Faltered. I can't remember it.
Yeah,
I know MySpace was the big one, but
MySpace and Vine and
Vine was another one. Yeah. So, all right, what do we got here? You had no Josh Manson in this game. Injured. Avs played well, like we've been saying. What do you do for game 7? If he is, the injury is just a day-to-day thing and he's good to go or eligible to play for game 7, do you put him in there?
No.
Or do you roll with what you just had in game 6? I say you roll you had in game 6. Manson's going to be there. He's got his contract. He's going to be there next year and the years after that. Like, he's not going anywhere. He's having a rough series, clearly.
The Josh Manson subtraction also was coupled with the Cale Makar addition. So a lot of that was not felt on the defense. And honestly, Jack Johnson doesn't do anything. Josh Manson does everything, and it's wrong. So that's you're going to be fine with this combination in game 7.
They switched a lot of it up. You put Makar and Taves back together, which I don't think you should have split them. I said it at the time. Like, fine, mix up the forwards all you want. I just didn't like mixing up that pairing. That's the best pairing in the league. And why are you mixing it up for the defensive pairings? I don't know.
It's the two halves of the scarab, and you put them together. Cave of Wonders.
Don't touch anything but the lamp.
Anything but do not touch anything but the lamp.
But I thought they were a good pair. He dropped Sammy G down to the third pairing. I do not think that was a demotion by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's been playing really good this series.
Yep.
And I think that's why he went down there, to give that pairing a little bit more oomph. So I was fine with that. And then you had, let's get into some stats here. Well, you had Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
What a goal, baby. What a goal from the Condor.
Yeah, and they said on the broadcast that it was EJ's first goal of the year, but they also said 2 games ago that JT Compher had his first playoff goal of his career, which I was like,
I must have missed that. They said that?
When he scored that goal the other night, they said that was his first playoff goal of his career, and I was like, you guys have not watched Avalanche hockey, apparently.
It was slip of the tongue there. Maybe they were talking about of this year, and
said career twice. So I
don't know.
It was good to see EJ tally that. So
yeah,
and I think that had a lot to do with momentum, and it just doubled down on the momentum they were building at that point. And when EJ contributes, everybody gets on board.
Well, here's your points for the day. Your defenseman, you had the Eric Johnson goal, and then you had 2 assists each from Taves and Makar. And then for your forwards, Erod with an assist, Eller with an assist, Lehkonen with 2 goals, and Rantanen with 1 and 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So your defenseman had 5 points while your forwards had 6.
Trade them. Trade the forwards.
No. It's not that. It's just like, I think that's more of like Avalanche
It's balance.
Hockey. Yeah, not getting goals from Eric Johnson, but getting, assists from Cale Makar and Taves. Like, they're always engaged, they're always involved. You get that. That's not, and you haven't been getting any of that really from anything. It's well documented that the depth is struggling for the Avs, and they kind of still are. I mean, I thought Eller played a great game.
He really looked good.
Erod looked great. He's having a really good series. Let me get back to the things, but your depth is still struggling a little bit. Like, you got nothing out of the Newhook and Myers, and Malgin again with nothing. Malgin only played 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah,
So
and we talked about the momentum and how this game felt. And when you get contributions from EJ, Erod, Lehkonen, Lars Eller, when you get them helping out with scoring points, it's amazing how effortless the rest of the points feel when it's not heavily reliant on Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen. Even though Mikko came away with one,
yeah,
when you're getting it from other places, it makes everybody else's job so much easier.
yeah. I'm just seeing this on Peter Baugh's Twitter page. Jared Bednar said he wished the refs had ruled the Jordan Eberle hit on Cogliano a 5-minute major,
Yeah,
so that they could have reviewed it. Yeah, and that's the other. We didn't even
yeah,
touch that on that. It was a 2-minute penalty.
yeah.
And he said, "quote That's why they have the rule." And if they had ruled it a 2, Bednar said they would at least have ensured that they got it right. And he's right. They would have at least looked at it.
Yep.
But they just looked at it, and I think it might have been Peter Baugh who put it up as well. Of I guess a microphone. I didn't hear it. Picked up Nathan McKinnon saying to the ref, he said, he goes, "That's only 2. Are you bleeping kidding me?" Or something to that. Or he said that's only 2, or it was that should be 5, or something like that. So it just seemed like everybody knew how egregious it was, and
the referees
baffled.
are bad league wide. Watching all the other playoff series,
Yeah,
it's atrocious.
it's a struggle. It's a struggle. You got to deal with it. Where else are we? Yeah. So those are your
nothing
your
on the
goals of
power
game.
play.
No, yeah. 0 for 5. But I mean, I think the majority of those looked pretty good, especially that first one. You had like 4 or 5 shots on goal. Mikko had a wide open net and he hit the crossbar. Like he doesn't miss that. Well, obviously
he does.
Once he misses
Yeah.
it. You know, like that's a wide open net. You had the one where Grubauer made that incredible save.
Yeah.
I think it was Rantanen who made the pass to JT Compher, who was sitting right in the crease. Beautiful redirect, and Grubauer just stuck his pass. He just got his toe on it. So you had opportunities on the power play. You just can't seem to slam them home.
And they feel a lot better with Cale Makar as a part.
Oh god, yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's just the calming presence of like, all right, we'll be okay. But I don't think this booing thing is getting to him. But when you have, he whiffed on a couple pucks.
Yeah.
He had a couple pucks go over his stick, and that happens in the course of a game, right?
Just that's Mikko Rantanen.
Yeah. But when you have all this booing stuff going on, I think naturally people are just gonna be like, "Oh, it's getting to him." Like, no, it's just I don't think
they were booing him in practice today.
The Avs were.
Yeah,
the Avalanche were booing him in practice. Yeah. Apparently, that's I love that.
It's a joke now. It's fun.
So what are we expecting for Game 7, and then we'll get to our sound check. What do we think? I mean, like I said earlier, you feel good about how the Avs played in Game 6, and you kind of just expect them to come out and recreate that, repeat that. But you have a team on the other side that is not happy that they couldn't finish off the series at home. They're going to go make their adjustments. They just have to tell themselves, like, we got to 3 wins by doing this. So they want to get back to that. So like, this is where the chess match comes into play. Who's going to have the upper hand here? How do you think this Game 7 is going to go?
This is both teams with their back against the wall now. We were just talking about the inefficiency of the depth. It's what steps up. Like top line, they're equally talented and equally perform. Like the top line for Seattle is usually the one that scores that first goal every game. Colorado has to come out of the gate. They need to steal that first goal. They need to keep the momentum like they had in Game 6 and 60 minutes of it. This has to be a flawless game, because any mistake, you're going home. Yeah. So both there is no buy another chance, get another chance, we'll get them next time. This is the time. If you want to keep playing playoff hockey, if you feel like you are a cup winning team, you have to do the job.
Totally agree. And we saw it. We saw what they can do. And maybe that was, you hate to say, like, maybe that was a wake-up call because it's the playoffs. Like you should be up anyway. But there's just some teams when it's do or die, that's when they play their best. They have to. They have no other choice. And it's the same exact feeling going into this game. Your season's still on the line. And now the only difference is now it is for the Kraken too. So yeah, Game 7's usually there's like a feeling out period in the beginning. Nobody wants to make that mistake that gives up the first goal. And then you just get into the flow of the game. So it might be maybe that first 5-10 minutes could just be short shifts. Let's just get into the flow of the game. And then it's just all systems go.
Yeah, so, it could be a very similar feeling in Game 5 the other night with a scoreless first period, and then things started erupting in the second.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Let's finish this thing up with our sound check. And if you're new to the show, Kyle and I pick 2 songs that we feel best summarize the most recent game. These songs go up on a playlist over on Spotify. And you can find that by searching LOA Soundcheck. This is volume number 2. So what do you got for this game, sir?
Simply put, from the great poet Metallica.
Is he a great poet? Is he? He's a great.
Yeah.
He's a philosopher.
yeah. They have a song on the album Saint Anger called "All Within My Hands." All your excuses, all your reasons to still be here, they are answered in Game 7.
And you've used Saint Anger in the past.
I have.
And I, I'm not as much as a Metallica fan as you are, but I love that album. I just like the different nature of that album. And I saw I don't know if I sent it to you. There's like a video of a guy playing the drums, and instead of a snare drum, he has a keg and a metal baseball bat, and he's playing the songs from Saint Anger and the snare, because they like shut off the snare drum in the mixing of that album. And it sounds, it's like, oh my God, did they actually use a keg to record this album? Because it sounds exactly like the snare in that album. It's crazy. I got to find it. I'll send it.
Yeah.
So
that's dope.
But that's a great, all within my hands. Like you're right. You're right. This is it. This is it. Now it is back in your hands. So that's a good one for me. Like I went, everybody knows the Cardigans from that one incredibly popular song that they had from the Romeo and Juliet soundtrack, believe it or not, which is a really good soundtrack. That song Love Fool that everybody knows, right? But they were a really good band. I don't think they're around anymore. And they had an album called Gran Turismo, named after the old video game. Yes.
I love that game.
Yep. And there's a song, there was a single, you probably have heard of it if I played it for you. It's called My Favorite Game is the name of the song. And I'm sitting here watching this hockey game, and the Avs win, and they go to Game 7 and everything that comes with it, and all the other games that are being played right now. You have this fantastic Panthers Bruins series going on right now. That's going to Game 7. 0 people picked that, unless you're a Panther fan. Outside of that, nobody saw that. So it's just, this is this is our NCAA tournament, and this is why this is, to use the song title, my favorite game. This is just awesome. I cannot wait for Game 7 on Sunday, which we don't know as of this recording. Maybe when we wake up in the morning, we will know. Unless, are you checking right now? Maybe
I'm seeing if they did anything.
And we were talking. There's only 2 games scheduled for Sunday, and those are both Game 7s. It is our Game 7 with the Kraken, and it is the Panthers and Bruins. Do not put this game on 8 Mountain Time, 10 Eastern. Like, why in the world would you do that? Don't. You're giving me a look.
I'm looking at the NHL app, and it's showing me 9:30 p.m.
Why are you doing that?
Because Boston and Florida are playing at 6:30 p.m.
You don't put these the late game on a Sunday at 9:30 Eastern. You don't do. Sunday is a sports day. People are lounging around on Sunday. They're going to be in bed. The East Coast fan base is completely removed from this game. Like that is.
We could still watch the race.
To me, man.
We could still watch the race.
That makes 0 sense to me. Like, serious? Is that like confirmed?
I'm looking at the time right now in the app.
There it is. Yeah, they just updated it, and 6:30 for Boston and the Panthers, and 9:30 for the Avalanche and Kraken. Those are East Coast times, by the way.
And by the way, both are on TNT, so it might be later than that. If they keep keep it on one channel,
it'll be, because normally they would schedule at 7:30 and 9:30, and that's what they say 9:30 and then or 7:30 Mountain, and then it's 20 minutes after that. But the fact that they're spacing these out 3 hours apart, it should start as close to that start time as but you never know. Why they would do that, I have no idea. Make them. I mean, I know you got to take the West Coast into account. So say like 1:00 California time, make it 4:00 and 7:00, 4:00 Eastern, 7:00 Eastern. Do that.
3 of the 4 teams playing on Sunday are East Coast teams. Well,
not
no,
really,
2
not
of them.
Colorado.
Two
Yeah,
of them.
Two of them.
And then you got the West Coast matchup. You could just do like the NFL schedule. Have your like noon games and then have your 3 p.m. game.
0 sense to me, but wow. I guess I have to apply for NHL scheduling in addition to Department of Player Safety.
Yeah, you take player safety. I'll schedule. I'll take
All right,
that.
we're gonna be busy this offseason.
I guess so.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up. So thank you for tuning in, everybody, and making this your first listen of your weekend. Very, very much appreciated. We got a game 7, everybody. So Avs went out and did what they needed to do. Now they got to do it again. So for Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I'm Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you guys Monday.